Hi, friends. You are watching Unwritten Rules of the Road. I am Tosh, and we have an especially special stream for y'all today. Normally, Scott is behind the scenes, and we got him to come out to be in front of the camera for this particular episode. We have the incredible Statik from Collide joining us today. Hi, Statik.
Hello. Nice to be here.
Hey,
Yay!
well, yeah, I'm really excited to have Static on. Um, this is someone who I've worked with when I first moved to LA. Actually, before I moved to LA, I got a chance to try out for and play with Collide, and so that's when I met Static. I met kaRIN, the other half of Collide. And I got a chance to play some music and get to know these people, these amazing artists. And Static is an incredible producer, sound artisan, I should say. He has actually, you have inspired me to like just become more immersed in the world of sound and learn about production and mixing and audio and monitors and all that fun stuff. You've helped me out when I had questions about like mixing. So yeah, really excited to have you on. You've done some amazing things throughout your career. And what's also really inspiring is the fact that Collide as an entity has stayed fiercely independent. I know you guys had a contract at one point, like a record label at one point, but for the most part of the entirety of Collide, like you guys have been independent. That has also inspired my own path and the path we've taken in Alice and other projects that we've had. But yeah, we're really stoked to have you on. I don't know even what else to say. It's just I guess just like what are you up to these days? Like what are you doing? Like
Big intro.
yeah.
What are we doing? Well, our latest thing for this year is we are doing two releases called Signals Volume 1 and Volume 2.
Mhm.
And I thought along, it's sort of been in the back of my mind for a long time to sort of do some sort of best of, but um, you know, one thing to do this release, when I was thinking more about it, is why just put out the exact songs that were on the regular releases. So um, since we do all the mixing and everything, I thought why not go back into the studio and give everything a brand new mix and a new mastering, and if anything needs editing or some drums need changing or whatever, whatever needs to happen to make the songs the best they could be, just make new versions. So not
Mhm.
necessarily remixes, but you know sometimes when you're just working on a song and you're listening to it 24 hours a day and you release it, you're so close to it that sometimes it's hard to get away from it and have a perspective like right when you originally release it. So since it's been a while for all these songs, it was good to go back with fresh ears and just say, well, what could I make better? And so that's
Yeah.
what we've done.
Yeah, that's amazing. Um, it's so cool. Like, I don't know. I know you've done a few of the tracks that were like from way back when, but do you notice a difference between like not necessarily like remixing, but I guess you're like it's almost like it's like a reapproach or something. I don't even know how to describe it. Like that's
Well, so
just wild.
so some of the so going back a few years, in 2020 we did um two releases for Chasing the Ghost and Some Kind of Strange. Uh, we called them special edition releases. And so for those, I kind of did the same thing where I did new stereo mixes and new surround mixes, which was fun. And so for both those albums, the first thing that was really hard to do was to go back find the sessions,
Right.
get them into Pro Tools, um, in a way that I could work with them now because originally I had a Mackie mixer at the time, an analog mixer, and so I couldn't just pull up the session. And so
Right.
it was a matter of bringing, bring the session up and A being the old mix with the new mix. Um, I didn't want the mixes to sound totally different. I just wanted them to sound better, whatever that meant for the song. So it was
Mm.
really like a lot of A being and listening and seeing what I thought. So once I had those for those two albums, uh, I think I can bring up just about anything in our catalog now.
That's incredible. Oh man.
So,
I
so for the
yeah.
old releases like Chasing the Ghost and Some Kind of Strange, I already had those set up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so wild. Oh, like I know you mentioned you had the mixes done through the Mackie mixer. So how did you have to approach that? Like did you just have to like do you have the stems, I guess,
Well,
and you just had to sort of remix it?
I had the individual tracks, but when I was sending everything out to the mixer, it was more like in stems. So,
Hmm.
some of the all the guitars were grouped together, and of course, I didn't, you know, however you're doing stuff on the analog mixer, that doesn't translate into putting it back into Pro Tools. And I think, the interesting thing I did find is that it is really hard to uh, make digital stuff sound as good as easy as it is with analog gear sometimes. So
Right,
there was certain things that I think the analog mixer was doing that I had to figure out how to simulate in Pro Tools.
right. Yeah.
I
No,
think
there's always
I
a
think
I
yeah.
would still like to, I would like to have some, you know, really good uh analog, like even like an 8 channel mixer to do stems. But I'm not doing that now. Maybe in the future.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm curious because for those of you watching, Statik has a very deep history in the world of production, in the world of mixing. Um, you were obviously like back in the studios of working with people like Prince, people like Michael Jackson. The list goes on, and it's incredible. Um, I feel like you have such a deep understanding of sound, and as technology has happened, like you're mentioning the difference between analog and digital. I mean, I'm sure your ears are able to pick up those nuances. That's something that I myself couldn't do, but just curious, like as gear continues to develop, as technology develops, do you expand your studio as things go along, or are there certain things where you're like, this is part of the studio, this is part of the sound?
I mean, I think my studio has definitely gotten smaller where I'll actually use outboard gear a little less, just because it's
Hmm.
so easy to automate and bring up, the song, whether
Hmm.
it's from last year or 2 years ago. And it's so much harder to do when you're using outboard gear, to process stuff. So any sort of processing I do now, I'll usually print to the track. Um, and
Right.
I have some, some analog synths and some analog processing stuff like, to run vocals through, but more is probably it's probably more in the computer than it used to be.
Mhm.
Um,
Hmm.
and even though I've been doing it for a while, I still don't think I really know what I'm doing. So it's always figuring out new stuff and what works. And I think you're always learning like how to make things better.
Mm.
Maybe
Yeah,
I thought
that's
I'm sure I thought I knew what was a good mix or how to mix, forever ago, 10 years ago, whatever. But I still like, that's why I wanted to do new mixes of all those songs now, because I think I'm better now than I was when most of them were released. And I think they sound better.
yeah. No, I mean, I definitely I don't know. Personally, whenever I hear anything new that you all do, to me it always sounds amazing. Like, I mean, I feel like for me, it's not like a good or a bad thing. I'm just like, oh my God, there's just so much beautiful sound happening. So whatever you're doing, it's amazing. So
I know like as far as reapproaching these songs, um, like Queen recently did the same thing with their first album. They went back and remixed it again just to have it sound as good as it could be. And it was interesting from, they're one of my favorite bands. And just to hear it different, where some stuff that you didn't hear before is really coming through. Um, Again, not remixes, but you're like, whoa,
right,
those drums sound a lot, better. Or
right. Do you feel like in that instance, does it make it better, or is it just sounding different? Does it just sound different to you when you listen to like your favorite artist when they do something like that?
I mean, it's hard to say what's better, because
Right.
if you've listened to the same album as a fan or a listener, you're used to how it sounds. You've listened to that same album
Hmm.
for 20 years. So
Exactly.
to say that the new one sounds better, you're just used to the other one. It might sound
Yeah.
better, but you know, maybe you still like the old one, and that's fine. Everybody can listen to the original version, like they can listen to the new version. Um,
Hmm.
Well, there's something that you said that I find so inspiring. It's that you're like, well, I still don't think I know what I'm doing. And I find that so many people with such deep wisdom have that beautiful approach to life, right? It's like the things that you are truly passionate about, the things that you've committed yourself to, it's like it only deepens with time. Like I'm sure 10 years from now, you will deepen your experience with sound. And so, you know, yeah.
I think the other thing is just keeping yourself, um, keep searching for what you like in art or music. Um, like I get bored fairly easily of sounds, and so I'm always looking for something new, in terms of how I'll start a song, or
Mm.
how to process a sound to get to something to start with. So, you know, I know that a lot of people will like a certain artist, maybe they'll like their first couple records. And for an artist, you're always changing. And I feel like we're always changing. My tastes are always changing. So you aren't going to remake the same record over and over again, because you would just get bored. And
Exactly.
so I'm
Yeah.
always looking for something new and how to, keep our same sound, because it's who we are, but to keep evolving.
Mm.
And that's another reason why, um, I just really thought about, these two releases that we're doing now, these signals releases, because I think a lot of people listened, to our albums in the, early 2000s. And then I don't know if it's people got older or your taste changed or whatever the case, some listeners just drop off. and I just found it was harder to get new listeners, but yet I was really proud and like I love, some of the I love all of our releases, but there was a lot of songs in, the last 10 years that I felt like didn't get the attention that they deserved. So um I wanted to do two volumes where you had the songs maybe that people knew the most, and then songs that maybe they didn't know as well. And you know, say, listen to these. These are really good songs. I'm
Yeah,
so happy with so many of
that's that's a really cool approach. I mean, do you find that like you're getting new fans that are just falling in love with your older music now, and like do you see that sort of happening?
I don't know.
Yeah, 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 makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think, yeah, I don't know, like that's a really cool approach. And I think that could you could draw people in with some of your older stuff, but then like you said, hit them with the newer stuff and you know,
Well, I
like
thought,
yeah.
as far as like having these two releases, some people have brought up similar things and like, well, you could just make a playlist, like why have two actual, why not just make a playlist? And
Mm,
because a playlist can be ignored, I can't make people look at a playlist or listen to it. Like it's just sitting
mm,
there on a page somewhere that they probably won't copy to their phone or their computer and they don't have to listen to. But
mm.
if I say, okay, here's two actual releases, you see it on our discography page, don't ignore them. The same
Yeah,
same way that you could a playlist.
yeah. No, I mean a release is much different than just like here's a playlist, you know. So that makes a lot of sense. And plus like, you know, these days it's like you have to battle with all the algorithms on the different platforms. So, you know, when you have like brand new audio waveforms through your distributors and everything, like it actually I think does make a big difference. So
I wish I had the answers for finding new listeners, but I don't. Just,
yeah.
it was just, I guess, to put it another way, um, s- I just, s- I could have, and so we've been working on these mixes, probably since the beginning of the year, end of December. Um, and I know that kaRIN would like me to start making new songs, which we will do, but I just wasn't in as much of a hurry because uh, I thought these, some of the songs that we've done that are on these releases, I can't make them any better. They're, um, I like them. There are
Yeah.
songs, of course, I like them, but you know, I feel that they needed somehow to get more ears on them
Mm,
or before just starting to make new music. I could make new music all day, but if people aren't hearing it, it can get disheartening.
yeah. No, definitely.
We actually have a couple questions. First one actually is from Dusty Chalk, and thank y'all so much for taking the time to hang out with us. What is your favorite digital plugin that helps the mix sound analog?
Hmm, a good question.
Yeah, I'm wondering that too. Like, have you found anything that works?
Um, I would say the biggest thing that's helped me in the last few years is the way just to organize mixes. I Not that I wasn't organized before, but the way that Pro Tools allows you to do things now, I've gotten used to running sort of, I'll divide my session into, say, vocals, and here's the thing, like you do it a certain way to where whatever the song you do it. So I have vocals, I have drums, I have bass, guitar, keyboards, and those are all their own groups that are going through um uh a you call them a submix.
Mhm.
And so you can easily change the levels of any of those in the group. Um, it's just gotten easier to, you could always do that, but it's gotten easier to do, um,
Yeah,
where you can easily, run a plug-in, affect the whole group, affect individual ones. So if you want to put a compressor on all the drums or uh, the bass or, just that way of working, I found has been helpful. And I don't probably part of it is, it's nice having newer computers that can handle more of that.
oh
Um,
yeah,
you
can
know,
relate.
looking back at like some of the early mixes, the computer was maxed out, but there's no way you could run half the plugins that you do now. So not having to worry about, oh, if I want to stick another, compressor on this bus, it's easy to do.
For sure. That definitely it you're basically like describing my own workflow personally. Like I have everything organized into like little subfolder, like basically folders. So everything's like vocals or guitars and bass, and yeah, it makes things so much easier.
We have a few more questions actually. Nuclear Waste is asking, what are your biggest influences from your first 3 decades of life, and how have they shaped you today?
I think I know who Nuclear Waste is. Give me that question one more time.
Who are your influences from your first 3 decades of life, and how have they shaped you today?
Uh, Biggest influences, I'll say probably Queen for one. I've always, even though most of the bands that I liked were electronic, and I sort of shied away from more analog rock bands, just the vocal layering I've always loved for Queen, and I love the diversity of their music. They can have one song that's really rocky and another song that's, you know, a waltz, and you still know it's Queen. So I really like that about them, that they were able to change their sound and still stay, have a sound, but changing their sound from album to album. Uh, who else? I mean, there's so many electronic bands. Uh, Gary Newman was a big influence. I collected a lot of his albums and CDs. Uh, especially when you think like what some of the early electronic people were doing in, you know, the late 70s and 1980. I remember uh some of Gary's early albums, and yeah, I just on the other end of the spectrum, just so uh analog electronic for the albums that I really like.
Yeah, I think you actually got me into Gary Newman. Um, so yeah, I can definitely relate the love for that.
Uh Number three, I don't know. Can I'll say Nine Inch Nails. Um, it, I mean, I know so many people like Nine Inch Nails, but you can't deny that Trent has always been really good in the studio and a wide variety of sounds and really trying to uh, you know, push whatever he's doing, push the sound and not staying content to do one thing. Uh, uh, I
Mm.
I really appreciate, all that he does.
Yeah. Amazing. I was actually re-listening to your latest version of the Lunatics Have Taken Over the Asylum, and I was literally thinking of Queen, like with the vocal layering. I really love that you mentioned that as an influence because I can hear it for sure.
I love the way the vocals are on that song. That was all
Yeah.
kaRIN. That was all kaRIN, so
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
It sounds amazing. Yeah. Um uh
by the way,
nuclear Oh
by the way,
yes.
did you see the new video that we did for Lunatics?
Mm-hmm. We did.
I was really
Yes.
happy with the way that came out.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
Um, Nuclear Waste had a few more questions for you.
Oh, okay, Nikki.
And it's um, if you could collaborate with any artist today, who would it be?
Mm.
That's a good question.
You know, I've I've been pretty lucky to be able to work with so many artists that I've liked over the years. Um, that sometimes, I just feel so lucky. Uh, we worked with Dean from Curve uh, on our secret meeting project, and Dean has played bass, for numerous things. And, I love Curve, and Dean's a great guy, so that's been great. I was a big Skinny Puppy fan for years before I met Kevin and the rest of the band, and I got to work on Skinny Puppy album, and we're friends with Kevin, and you know, that was that was great to work on as well. Um, I I've got to work on a Tool record, you know. Uh, so many bands like that. Like you're like, I'm just it, I think the teenage version of me would be like, you know, what the hell? You wouldn't have thought it was possible.
Yeah,
When I started working with Prince, I think I was 24. Um,
that's incredible.
yeah.
Wow.
So uh, I wish Prince was still alive. I would still love to work with him.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I wish David Bowie was alive. We'd love to work with David Bowie.
Oh my God.
We're both big fans of Kate Bush. That would be fun to work with her.
I could see it.
Well,
Yeah.
you never know. She might watch the podcast and be like, okay, I'm
Kate,
gonna reach out.
the invitation's open.
That's so cool.
Speaking of Prince, this was another question from Nuclear Waste. Your industrial vibe doesn't appear that it would mesh well with the Minneapolis scene, Prince. How did you fit in with the Purple Ones process?
Well, I would say probably the reason why Prince and other people at the time, you know, hired me or, rehired me to work on other songs was because I wasn't trying to do the same thing that he was doing at the time. I mean, I was a fan of his music, but I wasn't, I know that, the good thing about him is he was always looking for new sounds, and I love new sounds. And so I think it was just I was good in the studio. I was good working with computers. I knew my gear. I was fast, and I was able to, easily put things together. I have, you know, pretty good ear for rhythm. So, uh, it was I think all those factors made it why, he liked what I did. Um, Again, always, just trying not to do the same thing over and over. And he didn't want to redo Purple Rain. He was always looking for something new. So I think I just hopefully was helping him to do that and explore new sounds.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, I feel like that's what you've been sharing is really it comes down to the fact that you've always had this love and passion for trying to grow. And I feel like that would naturally align with any other artist that is in that same mindset for sure.
I mean, I worked with Michael Jackson for 8 years. And it wasn't studied, but it was time to time during those 8 years. And he would he would say, like, I just want to hear sounds that nobody's ever heard before. And you're like, okay, what is that? I don't, you know, I don't know. I'll do my best to try to, like, give you something interesting. And I think that's what I think that's what people need to do when they're creating. I think
yeah,
a lot of people will get stuck in a rut or just do what's easy, or I don't know, try to redo an album over and over again because maybe that was successful, but I don't think that helps you as an artist, and I don't think that people want to hear that. I know I would get bored. I That's not what I like.
yeah. Actually, I wanted to ask, do you have any like standout memories from working with Michael Jackson that you could remember that's like, oh wow, that's a crazy memory, or that was an interesting thing that happened?
Um, I will say, I don't know about the best memory, but the one thing about working with him, so at the time I was working in my home studio and I was either working on grooves to give to him or working on songs that he was working on. And, it was back in when I had the Mackie mixer, my samplers, my gear, whatever, just in my home studio. And then at one point, he wanted me to go out to Neverland to work. And the only thing is, he didn't have a studio out there. And I think he had a separate building that was like a dance studio. So maybe just like mirrors on the wall, everything. So I would have to bring all of my gear out there, my mixer,
Oh,
speakers, analog gear, samplers, whatever. And I said, that's just too much work. I don't want to bring it
yeah,
out there. It's just too much to haul. And he said, he was fine with that. But and looking back, it would have been fun to go out there and I don't know, see what Neverland
for,
was.
for sure. Yeah. That's, I mean, just like that idea, like I can't even imagine just having that experience. So that's awesome.
I mean,
Yeah.
just to jump back to Michael for a second. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, I don't know I don't know anything about any of the, you know,
Controversial stuff.
controversial stuff that, he was
Yeah.
accused of. Uh, all I know is, like, from the very first time that he came into the studio, uh, he was super nice and very polite to everybody. He shook everybody's hand. He just couldn't have been any nicer. And he was always just very professional. Um,
Yeah.
I'll share one more Michael story. Uh, so at one point after working with him for a while, I got a message from his people that he wanted to have a meeting with me in person. And so he would be staying, when he was in town, he would be staying at the Hilton, Beverly Hilton. Um, so that's where the meeting was, where he was staying. So I go there one day and, bodyguards there, and when he stays there, he must stay there for, I don't know, months or years at a time. So
Wow.
I go into a room there and he had it like all decked out with, like, I don't know, I think there was like a giant cardboard cutout of like I don't know, maybe it was Freddy Krueger or just weird weirdness, just weird stuff in the room. And he wasn't there yet. And so I'm there and he came in and he wanted me to co-write songs with him. And
Wow.
I'm like, wow, okay. Like, okay,
Right.
whatever that means. Um, and so that was a cool memory that he thought of me, so good to do songwriting with him. I never did get songwriting credit on anything, but um, that's why kaRIN and I work together so well as a couple. There's certain things that I do, but I'm not about, you know, words or vocals or putting together a song that way. That takes the two of us. So doing a song for Michael, I think would have meant like, what are the vocals going to be doing in a Michael Jackson song? I don't know.
Right.
That's not what I do, Um,
Mm.
I think I could have tried harder, and I probably should have tried harder to really make that happen. But that was that was right around the time we were making Chasing the Ghost. Um,
Mm.
Mm.
so it was, I was really splitting my, the resources in my
For
head. I
sure.
want to work on
Yeah.
Michael, but I want to work on, these
Yeah.
songs. And so uh, like I said, besides working on songs that he was working on, I would give him grooves. So I would start song ideas, and he would sometimes make them into a song or sometimes not. And there was a
Mm.
couple that I remember I was working on, um, and kaRIN heard them and was like, I don't think you should give that to Michael and keep those for ourselves. And so those couple of those were two two songs that were songs on Chasing the Ghost. So I think
That's incredible.
particularly I think it was Wings of Steel and Razor Sharp. And
Mm.
so I'm glad we kept those songs, but initially I had started them to give to him.
I really love that that was like part of the bigger vision for you as an artist. Because I think it's very easy, I think, at least for most people, when you're presented with like opportunities to go like, okay, I'm gonna follow this opportunity, and as we should, I think, in sections of our life, but the fact that you were like, actually, I have my own voice and I have my own vision, and to like really like feed that, and then look at what you created as a result. I think that's just so inspiring and amazing.
I think it's I think you could easily get too lost, if if I had just devoted all my time to that at the time, to him or Prince at the time or other stuff, where then there wouldn't be any collide. Um,
Right.
again, you have to keep yourself satisfied in what you're doing artistically. And I get fulfillment from working on both. I love working on our own stuff. I love working on other people's stuff. They're just sort of different
Mhm.
parts of my brain. But I would never want to just do one and not the other.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you are, multi-instrumentalist yourself. I'm sure there's like different things that like feed and inspire, other ideas, I'm sure, as you're navigating like the different sounds and textures.
I think it's always helped to work with different people too. I think hearing, being in the studio and hearing how other people do things inspires you. Uh,
Definitely.
just to see how, it's great to be able to listen to individual tracks or how they did that,
Were
behind
there,
behind the scene.
yeah. Are there any like standout moments that you can remember from working in the studio? as a when you're first starting out that just sort of stuck with you for your entire career? Like any of those like aha moments?
Uh, you mean like as far as like learning stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
I I don't think there's anything in particular. The biggest thing I think would be to be able to change and be fluid as for the
Mm,
song, because what works for one uh, might not work for another. Um, so I think it's about being true to the song and really like what works, once the song
mm,
is there, what does the song need? What's best for the song? Don't just try to add your same,
mm.
stuff, same sound every time. Like really try to listen to the song and what it needs. So
Yeah.
I don't have one, there wasn't really an aha moment, but I think working with a lot of people um, really just taught me to listen to the song.
Mm. That's
I
really
think
cool.
that's actually one of the most like amazing pieces of wisdom to really remember is to listen to the song. Um, yeah, and let that guide you, right?
Yeah. Uh, when we when you you know, I love I love the process of songwriting still because I find it still very difficult. Um, and that's what makes it fun because I do like the difficulty of it. And you don't know what the song's going to be necessarily when you start. And there's a time where it's not a song and it's an idea. And then there is a point where all of a sudden this idea you had is actually a song. And it's like, wow, okay. Then you can start sculpting and listening and refining. And I love that part, you know. It's not that I don't love the beginning, but I love once the song is there, figuring out what makes it the best it can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Is there a
that's
yeah,
part of what I really like doing, working with other artists too. I love, you know, a lot of times I'll get hired because somebody will give me a song and I'll make it bigger. I'll take their little idea and really expand on, the ideas they have and I like that.
that's really cool. Do you still take on projects like that where someone will hire you and send you an idea and you could extrapolate it from there?
Yeah, not as much as I used to, but
Mhm.
I've never, I've never had a manager. I've never had anybody looking for, it's always just been word of mouth.
Mm,
And I'm fine with how much work I get in, from
mhm.
time to time. So,
We're getting some more wonderful questions and love. Isabella Vega is saying Collide is my favorite band. So awesome, coolest sounds ever for sure. Agreed.
thank you.
And Isabella is asking, how would you approach the task of making a new sound?
How would I approach the task of making a new sound? There's so many new sounds. Uh, like I was watching a demo the other day for, I think it was a sound library, and this sound library also incorporated like different. I don't own it, so I was just watching a video on it, and they were demonstrating. They had built-in plugins, I guess, that would run for the library, and one of them was this distortion plugin, and I can't remember what it was called right now. I don't own it, but I remember hearing
Mhm.
it, and I was like, "Wow." that is very interesting. I've never heard, something being processed like that. And so I had to look it up, and I was like, definitely put it on the list as something to think about getting. Um, so there's no one way you can come up with a new sound. Plugins are a dime a dozen, so run stuff through all the plugins or one plugin or, you know,
I I have a specific memory actually with you, in terms of like speaking about new sounds, and it reminded me of the time when we were in your studio. I think I was putting down some guitar tracks, and you're like, you should just play through this fuzz factory, just direct, with my guitar, and it sounded amazing, like no amp or anything like that. So I mean, just like that spirit of experimentation, is so awesome, and I see the benefit of it. I still use that technique these days.
I was that I remember there was a time that you were doing the guitar on our Comfortably Numb uh cover.
Mhm.
Remember that? Like I remember
Yeah.
as you were playing, I was changing the knobs on the guitar on the pedal as you were going.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Again, just the idea of staying fluid and trying new things.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think that's part of the fun, I think, about like just being an artist in general, whatever medium you happen to choose is finding like your different tools and your different, voices. And sometimes you will find people that are like, okay, I'm always going to paint with these particular colors, like green and blue, for instance. But I feel like that's probably part of the artistry is like the discovery, you
Like when I
know.
when I started working in the studio, my biggest problem was how to organize and keep like my library of sounds uh, readily available because at the time there was no, you couldn't buy a hard drive for $200 that would like have a terabyte of sounds. Um,
Yeah.
it was even before like zip drives or anything else. So the first thing that I bought was it was a optical re removal. I forget what they called it. A removable optical CD-ROM drive. And so you would have a disc that kind of looked like a CD that you could pop in this uh, player and record your own sounds like a hard drive. And so I would have different discs that I could keep in, but that was, that's what I think that's what I needed to do my work, to be inspired. And I was always on the lookout for new sounds. And so I was always making my own library of, okay, there's, these sounds here and be able to organize them and have, you know, new sounds readily available that I could use for making grooves or drums or whatever. But, and that's still the case. It's just much easier now.
Yeah.
Just always build, always built like for me, I have just a library of sounds that I'm always building. So when I'm, working on a song, sometimes you don't know what you want, you know? And so I just will go through some of the sounds that I've collected or grooves or whatever and say, oh, that works. Or, what you think you don't know what works until you try it, but you got to have everything um, available and easily organized to where you can find stuff.
Hmm. For sure. Do you find that like when you find a new sound, do you sample it, or is it like do you create like a preset in like whatever sort of synth hardware or software that you're using? Like, is there a specific way that you save those sounds for later usage?
I find what I do now is is I'll probably use it, you know, in whatever sampler or synth or whatever the case,
Hmm.
and whether it's printing it with, some sort of effect gear in the computer or running it through a piece of outboard gear, I'll print it. I'll print it how I like it,
Nice.
you know. Um,
Mhm.
uh, and I bought some modular gear a few years ago, just to see if that was a way that it was a new way of working. And as far as synth wise, it didn't really work for my brain and my way of songwriting, but I did like the outboard gear effects of the modular system. Uh,
Mm.
so being able to use uh, you know, some of those like effects modular wise, where, as you change one thing, it can be triggered by something else. And just the whole way of routing can be really hard to get in a computer.
Mm.
So again, that was just another way of, finding new sounds, new effects.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So, some more questions for you. Um, this is from Nuclear Waste.
Oh, nuclear waste, you're hogging the chat.
There's some great questions. Well, we have a snacks question, so we can start with that. Jessica Davis is saying, what is your favorite snack?
I'm not a big snacker. Uh, I do love a chocolate chip cookie though.
Mm.
Ooh, that's a solid one.
I can get on board with that.
Yes.
Definitely.
So,
Uh,
yes, back to nuclear wastes questions. Um, as a fan, what are the most important things for us to do to support Collide as an independent artist?
well,
That's the first question.
that's an
Yes.
excellent question.
Yes, I love this question.
Um, I'm sure you guys actually have some really good answers, and I would like to hear your answer too. Um, I think people don't really realize how hard it is to get news out there, or to get the word about any sort of post. So, uh, we try to, if we have something to say, we'll put it out on all the platforms, put it out on your own website, and it just everything, everything from streaming to Facebook to Instagram to whatever, it's all about algorithms. And if something starts to get traction, meaning that enough people have liked it, more people will see it. If you don't like or reshare a post, it gets buried. And even if you have 20,000 fans on your page, 50 people will see it if you're lucky. Um, so,
so
it always
so
it
true.
always sounds
Yeah.
it always sounds so stupid to say like and share, this post if you like it. But it's so important because that's just where society and the way that technical things work now. Like you can't, uh, in order for, if somebody the more people like it, the more people see it. And if you don't like and share it, you're just going to get buried. And the
Yeah.
same thing goes for streaming. I think, you can't force people to like or, you know, play a song over and over, but you could, I don't know, send a link to your friends who you think might like it or, share stuff
Hmm.
that way. And as soon as, from my understanding, if something like Spotify, if they see, oh, more people are starting to listen to this song, they'll put it on more people's front pages, or they'll put it in, you might like this sort of thing. So the more that you share the word that you like somebody, you know, be it Alice or be it Collide, the more people know about it, then that helps. If you just we love it if you're listening, but that doesn't help find new people to get the word out there, and that is the hardest thing.
Yeah.
What would you guys say?
I I mean, yeah, I could add on a little bit to that. Actually, um, I remember way back when I first started working with Clyde, like you guys were on it in terms of your email list. And honestly, like having joining a band's email list is probably the single best thing you can do to like make
Exactly.
sure you're on top of their news. Yeah. I mean, like, yeah,
Because then, I mean,
yeah,
I would love to, they're bands that I love. I would love to get, a newsletter saying, oh, we have something new coming out, because there'll be bands that
yeah,
I like, and you'll be like, I had no idea you had something coming out. I
mhm,
didn't see that at all.
yeah.
Your own
I
news, you know, join a newsletter. Yeah.
exactly. Like, yes. I mean, I
Well,
feel like we could have a whole podcast about this.
and it goes without saying that, physical purchases and say like downloads from Bandcamp are, make 1,000% of the the difference in supporting a band. Um, I don't think people, you know, I don't want to be negative at all to the, you know, music industry, but I don't think that the average person still realizes what streaming pays or how that really affected the music business. I mean, not just us, but the music business in general. Um, I could like a song and listen to that song all year, and it probably wouldn't account for, you know, selling one download of one song to somebody. A
Yeah,
buy,
that's like the equivalent of like 1,000 streams. I don't know. I think maybe it might be a few dollars, you know? I don't know.
so like we
Right.
have on our website, what we call our complete collection, where you get all of our CDs, or on Bandcamp where you get all the downloads. And I think like on Bandcamp, if you buy everything, they'll give you like 30% off of the price that it would be or something. And somebody got one of those the other day, and just to do the quick math, when I write them to say thank you, I was like, this is worth over 55,000 streams, you know? Uh,
So true.
and
Oh my
how
God.
how long how long would that take one person to stream 55,000 times? I don't know, but
Mhm.
it would be a lot.
That's a
Oh,
that's a lot of streams for one song, that's for sure.
right. I, so,
Mhm.
if you like a band and you feel like you can spare, the money to download the album you like, that makes all the difference. Not that we don't have our songs up on streaming sites, because I think it's too much to, I don't know. I think you're partially shooting yourself in the foot just because you wouldn't be seen even as little as you might be. I want to have the widest range of an audience we can, but
Exactly. Mhm. No, I
Well,
mean
I
it's
think
like
even,
it's sort of a
oh, sorry,
necessity.
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Tash.
Oh, no, no. I was just gonna say just the fact that you're asking that question is amazing, because I feel like then you have like kind of a pulse um on even wanting to. I think the intention of wanting to support artists, like it just means the absolute world, for independent artists. As Static was sharing, it's like, it's a very grassroots kind of thing. Like there's not like a big, huge major label push behind anything that we do. So it's like word of mouth. It's like these tiny little micro movements that I think combine to make all the difference. Y'all even watching this right now, you're supporting live artists and
Hmm.
or independent artists, like just by hanging out with us and your wonderful comments and support. Like it's all these little micro things that I think make all the difference.
Yeah.
Um, Nuclear Waste was also asking, do you think you'll play live again?
Well, that's another good question.
I like this question.
Yeah, Scott would love that.
Tosh would love that too. Y'all are amazing live. I got to witness it firsthand and it's incredible.
Again,
Yeah, definitely.
again, like
Yeah.
our live experience was so short, a handful of shows, and it was really fun. Um, I could go back in time and say what happened. Uh, you know, we got our toes in the water by doing the dancing ferret show in Philadelphia and for the Vampires Ball, and that was fun. And so we'd never played really live before that point, and we were like, oh, would we like this? kaRIN was, how would she like it? How would she react? And it was fun. And we did our short tour, which Scott was on with our handful of other musicians, Roger, Chaz, and Kai, and
Hmm.
everybody was just so great in the band. And so we did our little West Coast tour, and it was great. I mean, it was still, as you guys know, who have toured 10 times more than we have. It's a lot of work being on the road. And uh, for me, personally, it was hard because even though I loved playing live, I didn't like the aspect of being in charge of everything, you know, from the sound guy to the shows and booking and making sure you get paid and making sure, you can get to the next show. And there was just so many things for me to personally like, have to check on to make sure that everything gets done. I would have loved to just be up on stage doing my parts, being able to walk up there. Um, but that's not, having it work that way wasn't really, we weren't there yet, as a band. And so after we finished that tour, um, we tried to get a couple other people to book, more of a nationwide tour. And the first person, it didn't happen. And I think we were actually set to play on some Gothic cruise. I don't, do you remember that?
Yep. The Goth Cruise. Yeah. I
Yeah,
can never forget
we
that.
were set to do that, and we were going to work that into our schedule. And I think that's when Katrina happened.
Hmm.
It wasn't Katrina, it was some other hurricane.
There's a big hurricane. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they
And
canceled it.
so something happened, and they couldn't like guarantee that we were going to be on that cruise, or they weren't going to pay us, or I don't even know. But so that kind of threw a wrench into like booking that tour, and we couldn't get somebody else to book the tour. And I certainly didn't know enough to book a whole US tour. I know you guys do, but I didn't, I couldn't do it. I didn't have the contacts or the clubs to do it.
Mhm.
So after sort of trying to make that happen for a while, I was like, well, screw that. I'm just going to go back in the studio and, you know, be in my happy place and make more music. And so that's what we did. And, you know, at the time, and still to this day, kaRIN has her own business, jewelry design and accessory design business that she has been running forever. Um, so it's always been hard for her to step away from that, not you have something has to get sacrificed to go on tour. And
Always. Yeah.
it's hard just to,
Hmm.
if you're running a business just to say stop, because you're dealing with a lot of moving parts that don't necessarily just stop. And if you do stop them, it's hard to get things started. Um, so would we ever do it again? Uh, I mean, I would never say never because I wouldn't mind doing it, but but there's more than just me in the band, and
Hmm.
uh, I'll just say I don't know.
So we need to just align some planets and stars, is kind of what you're saying.
I mean, again, it could happen. There aren't any plans at the moment. It would be again, I would love to do it if the budget was there that I didn't have, I don't want to be the sound man. I don't want to be, I
Hmm.
just want to be playing my chords, my keyboards and whatever. Or actually drums. I would like to play drums on tour.
Yeah. You
I,
should be the drummer.
I would love to be the drummer.
Ah,
I've thought about that. I'm like, well, that would be really fun. I would love to do that.
That'd be amazing.
Um, so we'll see.
I'll do the synth parts and you can play drums.
Oh, Sky, you got to do guitar.
well, I love
I was
that
so
you're.
I was so happy with our, the band that we had. I mean,
Hmm.
it was really a fun group of people and everybody was so good. Uh, I really feel bad that we didn't do more shows.
I feel like from my perspective, because my first experience of Collide, besides listening to your music beforehand, was at your El Rey show when you were recording your live DVD. And it was just powerful, like from the very first sound. Like it was just this whole experience. So it wasn't just the sounds, but it was also the visuals. So there was a lot of thought and artistry put in behind your live show.
I mean, we were definitely trying to make it as sort of a big of a show as we could put on with with our budget and what we could do. It was hard though, and for as far as you know, other things about a live show, it was hard for us because kaRIN doesn't have a loud voice, and so not dealing with the same sound man, our own sound guy to take on tour or whatever. It was always
Yeah.
hard, to make sure that she got heard. And you can't
Hmm.
you can't just tell kaRIN to sing louder because that's, she can somewhat, but that's just not the way her voice works, and that's not the way the parts work. So
Right.
that was always, something we had to deal with technically, that I would, would be it would have been good to figure out even more, and I'm sure we would have if we would have played more shows. Um,
Yeah. It's so interesting because like technology these days makes it a lot easier to be heard, like with the, all kinds of voices, I know sometimes with even Tosh, like some of the best parts are like the whispery or the quieter parts, but now it's like you've got like virtual guitar rigs and all kinds of technology where you don't need to have like crazy compete with all the volume on stage, and you've got in-ears and like all these different things that help so much. It's like technology has come a long way since then. It's
I know,
weird.
I know even when we were playing,
Hmm.
we were doing the best we can. We had
Hmm.
Chris
Hmm.
and I did, and you were even at the time you were doing a lot with, we had your effects changing as the computer was going.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, that was awesome.
there was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah.
We're trying.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like it's one thing to craft the songs, right? To actually just write the songs. There's a songwriting process. And then there's the actual production of it, right? Where you like piece it all together. And then there's the visuals. This was a question as well that Nuclear Waste was asking about. And then there's the live show. There's just so many moving parts to what you can put out into the world.
Well,
Uh,
I do think that if, again, being the unwritten rules of the road, I feel like I cannot talk to the unwritten rules of the road because I was hardly on the road. But from, our little time, what you do in the studio sometimes doesn't translate as well to doing, I think, a version of the song live. And I
Mm,
do think it is good to be on stage and see like what works in a live setting. And for even the songs that we were doing at the time, um, say a song like Wings of Steel, the extra parts that we did live were great. And and so, I was recently listening to uh those live versions, and I was like, wow, I really wanted to put those guitar parts that we actually recorded during that El Rey show into the version that went on the latest Signals album.
mhm.
Um, and it just, it took the song to another level. Um, I
Yeah,
forget
it's funny.
I forget
Yeah,
what
when I heard it,
I forget what the question even was, but
it was just gonna say like I remember listening to the new version. I was like, something reminds me a little bit about like the one we recorded live. But that's so cool to hear how your
oh,
thought process behind it.
it was those exact they were the guitars played during the El Rey.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So cool.
Um, so Nuclear Waste was asking, the imagery on your albums, website, etc., really well done. Is that just kaRIN and you, or do you have a silent graphic design wizard that puts it all together?
That's us. There's no graphic design wizard. And that's the other thing that's, I'm like every other most independent artist probably is you just have to get used to wearing so many hats, you
Mm.
know, uh, that, you know, how do you do graphics? How do you put together a video? How do you update your website? How do you distribute, stuff? Make PDFs to send to somebody to, there's so many, there's so many hats. Um, so, I mean, I'm glad that people like Nuclear Waste or somebody thinks that the graphics are good. I was really happy with the way the album cover for the Signals album looked. Um,
Yeah, I love that.
I did that.
So good.
I was really happy with it.
Yeah.
People have not seen the volume two cover yet.
Mm.
Ooh.
Just wait.
Is it
I
already
think it's
done? Are you
What?
uh are you already just ready to release the art, or are you still in process?
No, it's done. Everything's on a schedule.
I love it. I
Nice.
love it. Yes. I love that you have like a big vision. Yeah.
And uh, we haven't told anybody, but we just, so we've been in this releasing a single a week, basically, for the songs that will be on these releases. And so last week we released the song Lucky 13. And so this week, that just came out this last Friday, is for the song Turn Off Your TV. So even though
Nice.
last week was for Lucky 13, we have a new video for Lucky 13, which will probably come out next week.
That's amazing.
Very
Exciting.
excited.
It's very exciting.
You guys are killing it. It's so inspiring. Yeah, that's awesome.
And Scott, I gotta say, your guitars have always been so great in so many of the,
Aw,
I mean, like especially, like I say, I'm in the band. I'm part of the band, but I love these songs.
yeah.
So like like the Turn Off the TV song, which was a single for the week this week. I mean, the guitars in that song are so good, like they're just funky and, thick and distorted, and
Mhm.
they're so good. They're really good. People
Oh, thank you.
should really like appreciate them.
I feel like I got a chance to just record so much on so many different songs. So this has been fun, like, revisiting them as they come out. I'm like, oh, okay, I remember all that stuff. So that's really awesome. Oh,
Yeah, I think
um,
what I appreciate about both of you is that I feel like it's like there's a lot of out of the box like approaches with sound and with like the way you design um, your music. Actually, it's a weird way to say it, to design music, but I do feel like it is a design and it is a lot of out of the box thinking, and it's so amazing to see how it all comes together. Because kaRIN's the same way, like her vocal lines are so like out of the box when it comes
oh
to the
yeah.
way she phrases and breathes and sings. It's just amazing to see it all like come together in that way.
It's definitely not a one person operation. Um, and I think, you know, we've been, we've loved working with a lot of different people. It's great to have, it's great to be able to have somebody who you know and trust come in and say like, Scott, play some guitars, and whether or not I'm trying to sing the part to you, or or
Mhm,
just say put on, do whatever and I'll cut it up. Like I know that whatever happens is going to be good. Uh,
mhm.
and the same thing with remixers. I know you brought it up a little bit in sort of the description this week, but you know, we've loved working with different remixers, and I've always been a fan of remixes. Uh, and so to be able to uh, and have other people reinterpret your songs and be able to go through, uh, and change, have them remix something and then decide that's great. What if I did this with, those parts of the remix?
Mhm.
To remix the remix sort of, but we've just we've been really lucky to work with so many different people.
Do you all have any collaborations coming up at the moment?
Nothing at the moment.
Hmm, right on. Yeah, I love the remix you did of our song Electrical. And it's interesting that you brought up the idea of like remixing a remix, because it's like hearing your songs interpreted in someone else's mind and creative vision, and like I feel like it also sheds light on things sometimes. So I remember hearing that, I was like, oh my god, I love how the drum sounds in this part. I was like, I wonder if I could tweak the mix to like sound a little bit more like what you did, that sort of thing.
Well,
So I
I've
love that.
I mean, I've always like, you know, like I said before, like there's a point where the song doesn't exist, and then there's a time when the song exists, and then you can work on that song. And you give that song to somebody else and say, what do you hear as a remix? Oh, they hear all these things that you didn't think of, and you're like, wow, that's great. I wish I would have thought of these things,
Yeah.
before I did the song. And so even, you know, sort of along those lines, like So like for Some Kind of Strange, our album Some Kind of Strange, and then the remix album Vortex, which was right after that, we had this guy uh, Mike Fisher, who was in the band Machines of Love and Grace, do a remix to Slither Thing, and he got the remix back to us before we even released Some Kind of Strange. And I like the parts that he did so much in the remix that I incorporated some of them back to the original version that was on Some Kind of
Yeah,
Strange. You know,
that's so cool.
leaving the remix on its own, but
Hmm.
no, it's all fair game. It's,
Yeah.
one thing inspires the next.
Yeah. It's my favorite thing about music is just how it could just keep on infinitely inspiring, revisions and new versions and new song ideas, based on just like, a different interpretation or,
So like
anything.
so like our song Intruder, if you know that song, it was on Color of Nothing, and it's I don't know how you want it, it's our sound. There's drums and guitars, and you know, it's a typical Collide song. And then we did remixes for it on, I think the remixes for that were on Mind and Matter,
Hmm.
I think. Uh, don't quote me on that. But anyways, we did some remixes, and this one girl did a remix for the Intruder song and made it all about uh, she stripped out all the instruments that were there and just had strings and piano, and it comes across as a completely different song. Mary, Mary did the remix. Uh,
Hmm.
Mm.
and
I think I remember that. Yeah.
and it's such a it takes a song like in such a completely different version. It's just amazing. Um, so happy with that remix. I mean, it's just amazing what somebody could hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's part of the beauty of different collaborations is sort of it's almost like a tennis game, right? Where you just sort of like you toss the ball over the net and you don't know exactly how it's going to come back to you, and then it comes back like a completely different ball, and you're like, "Hello, volleyball."
Right.
Like this is
Well, I mean, that's the cool thing about working. You know, I'm a fan of both things. Like sometimes you can take a song and just say, depends on, what you're inspired and what the people want, but you could say, I'm going to take this song and how can I just make it bigger? How can I make it better?
Mhm.
And that's a remix. Or you can say, I'm going to strip it down and make it the exact opposite of what it is. And both are valid and both are interesting artistically. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I've always loved remixes.
So are there any like particular things that you're brewing up in the next year or so that that you'd like to share with us?
I mean, to be honest, it's really just been about this. We haven't really thought further than these signals releases.
Mhm.
Where I've really, you know, I can't emphasize how important it is for people to support the music they like. And we've sort of,
Mhm.
you know, been like, if you want to hear new music from us, get these songs out there. You know,
Yeah.
uh, that's where we are now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What comes after? I don't know.
Well, it's
Well, it
very
seems,
exciting
yeah.
what's on deck. Yeah, sorry, Scott, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say, like, it seems like you've had this plan in place for a little bit. So I'm definitely excited to keep
Well,
my eyes out and see what
no,
comes next. Yeah.
no, I remember you brought um you, your podcast up to me like quite a while ago, and it
Hmm.
has been in the, what we've been working on has been in the, going on behind the scenes since the end of last year. It was a matter of like getting our songs to all of our catalog to a different distributor, uh,
Hmm.
a lot of just behind the scenes stuff to make sure that it all can happen the way it needed to happen.
Hmm.
So I know people can't, it's too much technical to go into, but it's been a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, it's interesting
congratulations.
when you release even a song, like, let alone like an album or music video or anything, but just one song, any piece of art, just like it's like the tip of the iceberg in terms of like you listen to a song that's like what 3 to 5 minutes long, and what like the time that has gone into the song, like every experience that has led up to that point. I think that's what's so powerful about songs in general. It's just it's a representation of so many chapters of life and experience and artistry, you know.
I, I think the people, it's always funny working on a song because there's no right way to work on a song, and some songs, come about so quickly that
Hmm.
those are great, and they can happen in like an hour or a day, and you're like, wow, I got all the parts, I got all the vocals, there's
Hmm.
a song, and it happens so quick. And other ones, can take a lot longer. Um, and we've definitely had both, where sometimes it comes quickly and sometimes it's a lot of work and they go through a lot of revisions. Um, it's just part of the process.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think what's, part of what's so special about your releases that are coming up is just the fact that like you were saying, it's like just being able to like go like, okay, with all this experience that I've had, um, like how do I hear it now? And so it's a very present expression. Like I feel like we get a snapshot of like what's going on with you as an artist, you and kaRIN both as an artist.
And it was, it was it's been it's been great to be able to go through, you know, all of our albums, or, say for the latest one, the second half of our catalog, and be like, okay, which songs do I love? Which songs do I really want to showcase?
Hmm.
What what ones am I most proud of? Um, and just be able to give those, an extra sparkle. Um, Even the other day, somebody wrote us for the Turn Off Your TV song, and they had played it in their car, and their 17-year-old son was in the car, and their son was like, "This is pretty good. Who is this?" And,
Nice.
I mean, you love that when, you know, your song can appeal to different, different ages of people, and,
Hmm.
we, we aren't making songs just for one genre or one group of people. Uh,
Hmm.
we just want people to hear the music that we love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I say this often, but I do feel like it's like it's universal in that way. Like I don't know, I think that music truly does just transcend, age and all of the little black and white parameters that we define ourselves. So it can speak to a heart, you know.
Hmm.
We're getting a question, by the way, from Curtis Campbell. How do you know you have the right music that fits the lyrics?
Mm. Well,
That's a
for
good question.
the right music to fit the lyrics, well, most of the time we start with the music, and the lyrics and the vocal melody comes after that. Um, and I know that my brain works that I don't really hear lyrics a lot. It's not lyrics is not the most important thing to me. So I can like a song with a good vocal sound and melody, and I don't even know what the lyrics are saying. And I could maybe listen to that song like 100 times, and I'm like, oh, unless I'm really paying attention to the lyrics, sometimes I don't know what they are. Um, so for me, and that's just me. I know it's not kaRIN. So it's 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 the melody and it's the melody and the way the voice
Mhm.
sounds. That's what's important to me. kaRIN would argue that the lyrics are just as important, and I know that's valid for a lot of songs, and I know it's very important. It's just it's not on the top of my list.
There's
But
a
that
sound to lyrics as
but that's
well.
but
Yeah.
that's what I work on most with her as being most important is like make working on the melody, making sure the
Mhm.
melody goes with the song.
Right. Yeah, some words like sometimes like the word itself can be musical for the context of the song, you know. Like I'm the same, like sometimes I don't even realize what's being sung. I'm just like I hear the words as sound or something and I'm
Exactly.
like, "Oh, that sounds cool." Like,
Right. It could, I mean,
yeah,
take any Cocktail Twin song, and you can listen to that song over and over, and there's no words, but I love it nonetheless.
Yeah, I find that when I'm writing lyrics, sometimes it sounds great in theory on paper, but then you sing it out loud and it just doesn't quite feel or sound right. I
mhm,
feel like sometimes the best test is just singing it out loud and then being like, how does this actually feel and sound,
mm.
with the music?
I keep trying to vote for doing an album that has no lyrics and just vocals. Uh, I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but I wouldn't mind if that if we do that. I think that would be fun because I
That'd be amazing. Yeah, like that'd be so interesting. Like,
because sometimes
yeah.
we start songs that way, and sometimes there's words and sometimes there's no words, and I know that uh, it can be hard making words into a particular melody if you don't start with the words. But I don't mind that. I would love to make a song or an album without words.
I think we might have some planted seeds for future things from y'all.
And I've been trying to plant that seed for a long time. So
We shall see. There was that Bjork album I remember, I forget which one it was, but it was like she used her voice for the everything,
right.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, when I
yeah.
when I think about like instrumental vocal like sort of vocalism music, I always think back to like Icelandic music for some reason. I'm like, of course, Bjork has probably done it. Like there's another band called I think Sugar Ross. I don't know how to pronounce it,
We got
but
Sigaros, I
Sugar
think. Yeah,
Ross.
yeah.
And he's singing in Icelandic, but it just sounds like beautiful sound. That's the best way I could describe it. And I'm like, I have no idea what he's saying, but it's amazing.
Right.
So,
And that's all that's needed.
Isabella is saying, kaRIN's voice is such a unique and diverse instrument, one of a kind.
I,
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah,
true.
yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, my dear friends, if there are any more questions, feel free to drop it in the chat. Um, we want to thank y'all so much for taking the time to hang out with us and for your wonderful questions and comments and for supporting Collide, for supporting the stream, for supporting artists. And I know there are many artists as well in the chats.
Mm.
So thank you all so much for perpetuating this amazing cycle of inspiration and creativity.
Congratulations for you guys on your Kickstarter. I know that's going very well and still
Thank you.
continue.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've been very blown away by our incredible community. Being fellow indie artists, it's something that we really can't do what we do without the support of our community. So, as you know, yeah, makes it all possible for sure.
It's been a wild ride, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Well, Static, again, congratulations on your incredible release and releases coming up. We're really excited to see, to peek behind the curtain and see the next thing.
Yeah.
Is there a specific day that we can look for that, or will that be announced?
For the next full release, I don't know it off the top of my head.
We'll
It's
peel our eyes for it.
we
Yeah.
still have a number of singles scheduled over the next coming weeks, so
Nice.
stay tuned for the single of the week. I'm not going to tell you what's coming out next week.
You can, and if you're out there, you could subscribe to the Collide mailing list, and you'll know for sure.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Next week,
Yeah.
next week is another exciting one. I'm excited for all of them, but
How amazing is that you can actually say that, to be genuinely excited about the work you're sharing. I think that's awesome.
I mean, I think you have to be. If,
Yeah.
Yeah.
if
Well, I don't know if you necessarily have to be, but I think that if we are lucky, I guess, as artists, then we get to continue to work on what we truly love.
well, we are.
Yes.
We're excited.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Well,
So
we're
awesome.
you guys continue to be like truly just inspiring, just incredible artists, incredible people, and you definitely carry the torch for so many of us. So thank you for continuing to be an inspiration.
We just we just try to keep doing what we like to do. We're glad that people
We
are.
love it.
Yes,
Thanks for you guys
absolutely.
for having me on.
Of
Anytime.
course.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank y'all, everybody. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, rest of your week. Yeah, thank you so much again. We will see you next time.
Yeah. See you later.